So while I was on vacation with my girlfriend, I decided to slowly look back over the history of this channel to really look at games that I covered about a year ago to see if I could maybe do justice to those older videos. Now, although I think that the quality of those videos were pretty good for someone who had never made this style of ramble before, one video caught my attention. 1 year ago, I made a video titled "The Stick of Truth is one of my favorite games of all time." And that is still the case, but I made that video kind of in preparation for the new South Park game. That was before Snow Day had a title, that was before Snow Day was fully revealed, and that was back when rumors were starting to speculate that we'd be getting a new South Park game within the next year or so. Now, you guys know my feelings on Snow Day. I've made it very clear, but I realized I've never talked about the Fractured But Whole. I've never made a video about the South Park game that I love almost as much as the first one. South Park: The Fractured But Whole is my perfect example of how you make a sequel, not only just in general, how you make a follow-up to something that people really liked, but how you make a sequel and change the formula completely. If you don't know, South Park: The Stick of Truth was pretty much a turn-based combat system. And although the turn-based system did not change in Fractured But Whole, the powers and the limitations very much did. But with that, we also got a much bigger story. And by much bigger, I mean it's pretty much twice to 3 times the size of Stick of Truth. Now, when you look online at people's reactions to the Fractured But Whole and to really Snow Day, something becomes very apparent. A lot of people really loved the Stick of Truth, and nothing has ever beaten it in their minds. And I pretty much agree with that. However, I think that the Fractured But Whole is in its own different category. Stick of Truth being such a successful hit with fans was, I don't think, something that the South Park studio heads and developers were, or not developers, but you know, the people who helped to make the game with TH Nordic or whoever the fuck made the game. I don't think people were expecting Stick of Truth to be such a big success. And with that, you had very high expectations for Fractured But Whole. Now, again, personally, I'm very biased because I pretty much love everything South Park. I think the Fractured But Whole is a fantastic game. I don't like it as much as Stick of Truth because they made a lot of changes that kind of depersonalized the experience, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But with the Stick of Truth, it felt like you were just dropped right into an episode of South Park. Like, yes, you were the main character of the story and your actions were very much apparent to be the driving force of the game, but you felt almost secondary to the boys just playing. And that feeling is pretty much captured the same in Fractured But Whole, but on a much larger scale. And unfortunately, at some points, it does feel like, as the new kid, you overtake the rest of the crew. Now, that is just my own personal feelings. Again, I fucking love this game, so it's just a nitpick. But things like Morgan Freeman being a mainstay, the changes to the town, because in between the Stick of Truth and the Fractured But Whole, the show of South Park and the town of South Park changed dramatically. And I personally think that the Fractured But Whole does the town even more justice than the Stick of Truth did. But again, that kind of comes with the depersonalization of the town, because with the Stick of Truth, you could go to Canada and you could explore the sewer systems, and every single little knickknack you picked up was a reference or something that you had seen on the show, and it would tell you right there on the screen. Now, these collectibles are still very much apparent in the Fractured But Whole. However, it's way more streamlined, and when you pick it up, you just get the same kind of junk icon or important icon, and it just goes right into your inventory. That is one of my biggest gripes with this game. Is one of my favorite aspects of Stick of Truth was just exploring and picking something up and being like, oh my god, I remember that from like season 5 of the show. But now you have to kind of go through all these different menus, and it kind of takes you out of the experience a little bit, in my opinion. But otherwise, this feels like you are dropped into a fucking full-length movie, if not multiple, because this game is just so much longer. Now, a lot of people were also pretty divisive on the combat system of this game because, like I said, it's still a turn-based system, but it's a lot different. Instead of being more attuned to games like Mario and Luigi, like the Stick of Truth combat system was, this one was on a grid playing field where your position mattered. So essentially, where you were on the board mattered dramatically. And that was something a lot of people didn't really like. It also felt like there were just a lot more enemy types coming at you at once. I'm a big fan of that because I think it just showed that they were able to elevate the gameplay style, but a lot of people didn't like it, and I can understand why. But with expansion comes a lot of success. Like I said, I think this is the best looking South Park thing that we've ever gotten. I think it looks better than even like the modern show does. Like, it just looks so good. With the DLCs, we actually did get more locations, which is something I'm not the biggest fan of, but I think that for what it was fantastic. And the cast of characters just exploded in compared to the first one. Who you can have on your team changed, what powers you can have changed dramatically. And then obviously the biggest change, like I said, again, was the length of the story. I personally felt like the story was good for 90% of the time. There were definitely some moments that were a little more lull and a little more dragged on than I think they should have been. I think the Mitch Connor stuff at the end was just a little much. And that's coming from someone who's rewatched the show probably like in full, probably 6 times. I've gone from season 1, episode 1, all the way to the newest season, newest episode, newest special. I've done that at least once or twice every single year for the past like 3 or 4 years. And I still felt like there was some parts of this game where it just kind of dragged a little. But again, that doesn't mean that I didn't like it. I think that the story here was pretty strong. And I think that all of the characters trying to have equal playing field, not only in like context of the story of what the kids are trying to do, but also from a game aspect, they had a lot of characters that were just going. And for the length of time that this game tried to do, I think it did it really well. Because you got to think about it like this, right? South Park has always had a really big cast of characters, but they're only usually on screen for about 30 minutes. So they can give some characters different screen time some weeks and change it the next week. But this was a full-length game that they had to try to do. And again, I think that they did it really well. All of the voice acting, like any South Park project, is just top-notch. Personally, I don't think the music of this game spoke to me as much as the Stick of Truth music did, but that's not to take away from it. I still think that the music is great. I do wish we got to kind of go back to Canada again and kind of see it in this new kind of reimagined version of South Park from this game, but you know what? I'm not mad at it. Like I said, with the DLC, we had a camp that was based off of horror movies, which, if you know me, I'm a fucking huge horror fan. It's my second favorite thing besides South Park to watch. Love that. And I love the fact that you could be like the final girl. I think that's a fucking amazing power to have. But then we also got the Casa Bonita storyline with Mysterion as DLC, and I think that that's just a perfect DLC pack. You can find this game for really, really cheap now, and going back to play it for this video just made me appreciate it even more, because when I think back to how successful the Stick of Truth was, making this game had to have been so daunting for the studio and for the devs. South Park fans, in my opinion, are very, very outspoken about their opinions and can be pretty volatile at times, and I'm definitely in that camp, but it comes from a place of passion, if that makes any sense. I feel like the South Park studio knows this because they've just been around for so long. And I really, really hope that they understand how much this game does for people like me. Because yes, it has its flaws and it has its differences, but at the end of the day, it delivered a very strong, funny, like drop dead hilarious at times with some of these jokes in this game experience of South Park that I wish I could have again for the first time. I think that's probably why I just could not connect with Snow Day, was because that game was designed to be a everlasting live service experience. And that's just not how I enjoy South Park. I enjoy going back to play these other two games because they're self-contained stories, because you can play both of them back to back and feel like you got this huge overarching story. You could play Stick of Truth one year, go back and play Fractured But Whole the next year, and feel like you got their own separated experiences. But that's what makes this game so good as a sequel. You literally do not have to play the Stick of Truth at all, because this game starts like right after Stick of Truth. And something you see with sequels is it's hard to, if you have a first game that ends with the protagonist being this super overpowered character, when you go into the next game, it's hard to kind of soft reset them in a way. And this game does it perfectly because the boys just decide to play something else that you've never played with them. So you're back to being a nobody. And I just think that's such a perfect thing. But yeah, I know I have some South Park fans on this channel still, I hope. I think some of them left though after Snow Day, to be honest. If you enjoy South Park and you enjoyed the Fractured But Whole, let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear why you enjoy this game so much. I know I kind of just talked in circles and rambled a little extra in this video, so I apologize for that. But you guys know me by now. That's just how we fucking do things. YouTube is telling me that 99% of you are not subscribed. What the fuck are you doing, dude? Just hit the button, please. Just if you don't hit the button, then I don't think we'll ever get a new South Park game again, to be honest. Okay, wait, that's just manipulative. Ignore that. Just please ignore that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.